Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I finished my gay movie marathon, but there are a few documentaries that deserve some attention. And of course, the first one I'm watching is Paris is Burning, the 1990 documentary which really exposed the world to voguing and the ballroom culture of the gay community at the time in New York. It's a fairly amazing document. It was shot between 87 and 89. It was released in 1990. I think it was March 1990. And it just captures this whole community and this whole scene. It's really fascinating to see how all these individuals, all these lost, disenfranchised, discriminated against individuals who all sort of found themselves in New York because they ran away from somewhere else, or that's just where they were, and a lot of homeless children, people who, of course, had been rejected by their family, and all had a love of similar things, sort of came together and created this community of these balls where they basically give it a reason, an excuse to dress up and fantasize and be who they want to be and be validated and acknowledged and get to, strut and parade and get prizes and seeing how they form their own houses, having house mothers who basically were mothers to these lost gay children who a lot of them didn't have relationships with their parents and their own mothers and fathers. It's all really fascinating to see how they just created this little community, and it had such a vibrancy and fierceness and all those things that we sort of associate with the gay community and drag culture. And just little things I didn't even think about, like voguing. It came from, of course, the name of the magazine, because the movements, the poses are all the kind of poses that you would make if you were posing in a photo in a magazine, like a fashion magazine like Vogue. So that's where the name came from. I never even thought about it. And I'm like, well, of course that's why it's called voguing. But a couple of weird things about the film is, there's two deaths involved in the film. One is very sad. One of the children of the House of Extravaganza, Venus, is actually killed while the film is being filmed. She was found after being dead for 4 days in a hotel just before Christmas. And at the end of the film, one of her friends from the House of Extravaganza is talking about her and missing her and that. And it's sad because you see them talking about the plans they want for their life and everything, and then you find out that they didn't even survive the end of the film. And that is a real threat that trans people had then and still have now, that they will be killed by someone. And the other death, and I found this out recently because I watched this film back in the day and I hadn't watched it again in all these years. It just made an impression and was just sort of, knowledge, and I sort of just referred back to it but never actually went back to watch it. But I found out recently in a documentary that one of the drag queens that's being interviewed, who is doing her makeup the whole time, she's basically pretty much all the footage of her, she's in her bedroom doing her makeup and just talking about her experience of decades on the drag scene, how it's changed and how it went from everyone wanting to create the biggest, most amazing, fabulous outfits to now everyone wanting to have a designer look and have the money for a designer look or to steal a designer look, and just the way it all changed and her perception and everything. It's all interesting. And the whole time while she was doing this interview, her ex-partner, who she probably killed in self-defense in a domestic violence situation, was preserved in a case in her wardrobe while they were doing the interviews. When she died 3 years later in 1993, they found the body and found out that he'd been missing since 1968, so he'd been there for nearly 20 years when they're doing the interviews. Or probably, actually, if the interviews were done 88, 89, he would have been there for more than 20 years. So when you're watching this person being interviewed, you're aware that behind her in the wardrobe is the body of a partner in a case. It's really weird to watch it post-tense knowing that. But yeah, it's just really fascinating, interesting to see just how this culture came up, to see how it is relevant and important, and it goes through all the different things, explains, reading, shade, all these sort of things, and just explains the scene, gives example after example of balls and scenes and all the different categories like butch, queen, and realness, and talks about realness. And I've sort of seen different definitions of realness. This was specifically in looking straight, or you could pass as a real woman. But I guess it's still realness. But because now we look at things like RuPaul's Drag Race, which is just one big ballroom, and Madonna's ballroom section in Celebration Tour sort of plays like that, and it's all fascinating. And I'm just glad that someone had a camera and preserved it before it was gone. You know, they just managed to get there at the end of the 80s before it changed drastically. It had changed a bit. I would love to have seen footage from the whole of the eras that ball had, because I'm not sure when it started. But yeah, it was a great documentary. I'm glad I saw it. It actually was really successful. It made 3.8 million on a 500,000 budget, so it was quite a hit, and it was successful at all the festivals and that. And I think it was released small March 1990, and then later on in 1991 also got a wider release. But I was trying to keep this to 5 minutes. I've failed. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of Paris is Burning. And the name, which I've always wanted to know where the name came from, because I forgot. And I don't think they actually mention it in the film, but fortunately we have Wikipedia now. There was a ball called Paris is Burning, which was an annual event. It was run by a drag queen called Paris, so that's where the name Paris is Burning comes from. But it's an amazing documentary. I'm so glad it exists. And this amazing, you know, little society, this culture, didn't, like, you know, just pass without being documented and you know, shown to the world. And it's fascinating to see how Madonna picked up on the voguing and incorporated it into her music, and then sort of introduced it to the world on a wider stage than the documentary was able to, and to see sort of an extension of the that sort of the gay culture, the performers in her show and their lives and all that, lives that actually working performers and that. It's just, the whole thing's fascinating, and I'm just really enjoyed it. And if you haven't seen it, I'd see it. And if you have, let me know what you think of it. And if I've made any mistakes or missed anything out, let me know. But I'm going to go. Bye.